talk a little bit about Rock Ventures. It was introduced, but let me give you a sense of it. You're familiar with pieces of it. Certainly Quicken Loans is a big deal from the foundational company. You hear about Rocket Mortgage now. We've got a lot of different things that we're doing in the financial services companies. We're big in gaming of all things. I spent a lot of my time in this space. We're going to be a major gaming company with properties in Greektown and Detroit and in Ohio. Sports and entertainment, you might have heard the Cavaliers and LeBron James and some of those folks. Fathead, we're big into that business as well. Ticketing. Venture capital, I mentioned this because I know that the Saginaw Future and the other groups are focusing on the entrepreneurial activities, and that's really important. And we've had a keen focus on that. And each of these groups, each of these functions, we really try and understand how we can impact on the city of Detroit from the standpoint of each of these. We're going to talk clearly about the real estate stuff. That's what probably gets the most attention for what's going on from our investment in the city of Detroit. Talking about Rocket Fiber, which is a piece of that, and then any number of different startup businesses that we have. And so we're really trying to sort of attack the question that's always been the case. Hey, you have to create a great environment in order to bring people in from a job standpoint. You have to have jobs in order to have them come in and create an environment. We're really trying to do a big bang and attack all sides of that at the same time. So we'll talk about that. So private equity things, Rob Report, North Central University, we're into a variety of these different businesses. So when Dan Gilbert makes a decision to come into the city of Detroit, it was with the heft and the breadth of all of those different companies, and we wanted to talk about what we could do to change the trajectory of the city. I mean, it's our hometown, my hometown, Dan's hometown, and we really wanted to engage to see if we could affect the outcome. Like Saginaw, you got to start with the past when you talk about the city of Detroit, a vibrant community that really created the middle class. I mean, the shopping at Hudson's and the assembly line and the arts of democracy and music. I mean, a very vibrant city that really led the United States and the world in many ways for a good period of its existence. But come in the mid-1950s, and so I mean, it's really been in a state of decline ever since. The population has declined. The automobile industry came through a lot of challenges. We had challenges from a political leadership standpoint. We had racial segregation issues. We had the perfect stew of problems in the city of Detroit. And so by the time we looked up in 2009, I mean, this is a pretty sobering headline when Time Magazine says the tragedy of Detroit. It talks about it in the context of a disaster. I mean, they analogize it to Katrina, but we know it's an unnatural disaster because we're sort of self-inflicted in a lot of ways. And so it was against that backdrop, and a city that looked like this. I mean, we had a beautiful riverfront, and again, I'm going to talk about how similar this is to what's taking place in Saginaw. We had this beautiful sort of riverfront available to us, and we turned our back to it, and it was a beat-up old industrial thing with abandoned buildings and cement silos. And so ultimately that kind of all came to a crescendo in 2013 when we underwent the largest sort of municipal bankruptcy in the history of the United States. And so we couldn't kind of get much lower than that. It was against that backdrop that I think that Dan and our team and a lot of other folks were saying, hey, look, what do you want to do here? And we made the decision we wanted to invest. And it seems like sort of with that history, it's kind of an odd decision to make. But it was really important to us because we thought that we had an opportunity to really make a difference and to create opportunities for the city itself, for the people of the city, but also for our folks and our company. And we sort of paraphrase that by saying, we saw the opportunity to do good and to do well. We wanted to be part of the revitalization of our hometown, a great American city, but we also did it not as philanthropists. We did it because we thought that we could make an entrepreneurial profit. We thought if sort of you say, hey, the city of Saginaw or the city of Detroit and so on, if they're a stock, we think they're undervalued. And so we're going to invest in them. And we're not only going to be investing and be passive in that regard, we're going to invest and then get involved and try and make a difference in that regard. So in 2010, we sort of ends my past, if you will, relative to this. We made a decision to bring 1,700 people, which was our initial wave of folks, into the city of Detroit, and we leased space in the Computer building with our friend Pete Carmanis. So that's the sort of the short history lesson. So let me talk now about where we are, which is just 5 years later, a little bit more than that. From a building standpoint, As Nancy mentioned, we're 85 plus properties now. We have 14 million square feet in the heart of downtown. 300 total tenants, our own tenants and the folks that we've been able to attract down there, and $2.2 billion invested in the city of Detroit. So very significant from a real estate standpoint. And it's really important to note that, look, it's great to have somebody come in and buy buildings, but it's equally important that we had such a great collection of historic buildings that we could come in and recreate. And they really aren't available in other places. And so we came into the Madison building, one of our first buildings here that we got involved in the city of Detroit. It was empty for 20, 25 years, the old Madison Theater building. We came in and transformed it into one of the kind of the coolest high-tech buildings in the country now, and it's noted for that around all of the different tech periodicals and so on. Chrysler House was the old Dime Bank building, 1/3 full when we bought the building. And when we buy them, we're able to create these really cool spaces. The space you see here on the right, it used to be a bank vault, and now it's a conference room. And we really get to celebrate the architecture of these buildings and create very high-tech, very cool, fun spaces for our team members and others out of these great buildings. We bought the Greektown Casino as a part of that. We have a big focus on urban gaming and connectivity and being a part of the fabric of the downtown. We're spending a lot of time and energy understanding that. We'll talk more about it, but we really embrace it. Getting people out onto the street of Greektown and into the community and interacting with it in that way. We started building new. I mean, a lot of this was renovations to start. We started building new, and when we did, you know, the more density than there's ever been in downtown. I mean, it used to be there'd be 300 square foot private offices and all these buildings. Well, all of us now operate differently, so a lot higher density. So when we do that, we need parking. So we're not going to just create a parking deck that's going to be, you know, kind of a blemish on the community. We create these really cool parking decks, great retail on the ground floor, activated. This one's got artists from around the world that have painted on every level of it. So believe it or not, there are people driving around here while people are trying to park, looking at the art all the time. So it's a lot of fun, a lot of energy to it. We're building not just the buildings, the office buildings and so on, but we're putting data centers and involvement from a significant investment standpoint. We're certainly not the only ones that are doing that, and so I'm going to use kind of we interchangeably here because we really view ourselves as a community that are working on things. But the Roxbury Group did the Whitney building. It was empty for 20 years, totally redone now. An A-loft hotel here, now residential. Residential in our downtown and midtown is essentially 100% full. You cannot get a place. You have to go on a waiting list. Some of them have waiting lists that are a year long. So it's really pretty remarkable. We've never been a high kind of volume residential community, but that's changing literally overnight. Right across the street, Broderick Tower, empty for 25 years. I mean, a lot of these buildings are the buildings that we painted windows when we did the Super Bowl in 2006 because they were empty. And we tried to sort of create an image of something happening, and now it really is happening, and it's happening very quickly. A lot of really cool, fun retail stuff taking place. Shinola, you know, is kind of ubiquitous now. It's around the world. It made in Detroit, and we're proud of the connection there. Whole Foods. You know, when Whole Foods came in, we didn't have a grocery store in the city of Detroit. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous, right? And when Whole Foods did it, it was almost a charitable gesture, saying, hey, we're going to come in with this little store, and, you know, it's part of our giving back and so on. And now it's one of the best performing stores that they have in their chain, and they're looking to do another store or two in the city of Detroit. Restaurants, you know, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, you come to the city of Detroit, or Joanne came in, you know, we'd have a choice of going to like a really cool, like a Lafayette Coney Island or International Hot Dog Pancakes or something, right? There wasn't much going on from a restaurant standpoint, and now we have new restaurants opening like literally once a month. I mean, they're starting to call Detroit a foodie heaven, you know, and Antietam and Southern Standard and Gold Cash Gold. I mean, tremendous restaurants which are often in the forefront of the retail sort of rebirth of a community, and that's certainly been the case for us. Punchbowl Social. When we're creating these spaces, this is like a Dave & Buster's for grown-ups, but this is in the ground floor of the Z deck, and so we're creating things that bring out and that are attractive to people to come down and to live and to work and to play, and environments like that help us do that. We've got new entrepreneurs like the lady on the left who opened a wine store in downtown Detroit, and providing opportunities for people to expand, and then Carhartt, which is 150 years old or something, coming back and having a retail presence in the city of Detroit. The antithesis of Carhartt is John Barbados, so nobody shops at both of them for sure. But John Barbados is from Allen Park native, and he came back and he wanted to be, this is the first Midwestern store. Our friend Nate Forbes was trying to get him at Somerset and other places. He didn't want to do that. He wanted to be in the city of Detroit, to be real from a retail standpoint. So that's been great on the retail side. Hotel occupancy is gone up dramatically, 54% in 2010. That means everyone of them is going bankrupt. I mean, I can translate that to you from a hotel standpoint. 2014 is 70%. 2016 will probably be well north of 80%. So tremendous demand now is starting to take place, and with that, of course, comes the RevPAR and the rates and all the important things. So clearly a big focus for us in buildings and taking advantage of these buildings and leveraging the infrastructure that we had. Second piece of that, of course, is people. And we, from a Rock Ventures standpoint, now have 15,000 team members in the city of Detroit. And remember, we came down with 1,700. Our total workforce at that time was about 3,500. We've hired more than 8,000 people new in the city of Detroit. And if Dan was here, he would say that we would not have been able to scale like that if we had not been in the city of Detroit. When we were scattered in the different suburbs in Livonia and Farmington and so on, all great places, but we had no energy as a company, and we had a really difficult time attracting the young talent because they wanted to be in an urban environment. And so we started focusing on that. And that provides opportunities for the people of the city of Detroit too. The people that we're hiring either want to be in the city, want to move into the city of Detroit, or a lot of them now we've been able to hire from the city of Detroit. So over 3,000 team members now live in the city, and 54% of them have lived in the city their entire lives. So it's very significant, I think, the way that we've been able to sort of do well together as a community. I'm going to show you this one. You probably can't see it, particularly on the bright side, but suffice it to say there's dots all over this map, right? And the point here simply is there's perception at times that people are coming in just to live in the downtown, and that's where the cool areas and so on. Certainly true that there's big growth there, but our team members are throughout the city. And that's really important for us because it helps us stay focused on the fact that we need to pay attention to the entire 140 square miles of the city of Detroit, not just the core downtown. I'll talk a little bit more about that as well. One of the things that we've done that we think have been really amongst the most impactful things that we've undertaken as a company, as an enterprise, is a really significant intern program. And so over the last 3 years, each year we've been north of 1,000, closer to 1,400 interns per year that we bring into our enterprise. And that does some really good things. It allows us to, we're a series of high-tech companies. We're 110 companies that are essentially focused on high-tech. So we need this raw material to scale in order to do that. And so we get to expose people from around 200 different universities last summer, and 25,000 applications without any advertisement, tremendous demand. So we get to expose them to what we're doing. We get to great ideas from them in the interim. We're bringing all these smart kids. You know, we pay them $11 an hour. We take all their good ideas. It's actually a good investment. And then finally we expose them to the city of Detroit. I mean, we get them to understand what's taking place in the city, because most of them, including the ones that are from near-in suburbs of Detroit, like Clarkston or Grosse Pointe or somewhere else, a lot of them have never been in downtown Detroit, you know. And so we get them to see the city of Detroit as an opportunity to live and to work and to have careers, and that's terrific for us. In that regard, and I just took a couple of headlines here. I mean, and I talked about this at the beginning, and this is a benefit for Saginaw as well. There's really a demographic shift that people now are really interested in moving back into the cities. I mean, it's just fundamental, and we can take advantage of that, and we need to take advantage of it, because that either works for you or it works against you. It works for you if you create an environment where people want to move into Saginaw and the downtown Saginaw and have an urban life, and it works against you if you don't have that kind of environment, and you don't have it in the state, which we haven't had in large instances. And when I was at the NBC with Joanne and others, we spent a lot of time paying attention to the fact we were exporting our raw material of successful economic development going forward, which is the young kids getting out of the universities. the sad joke used to be you get 2 pieces of paper when you get out of the University of Michigan or Michigan State or something. You get a diploma and you get a ticket to Chicago or a ticket to Washington or something else. So we need to change that, and the demographics are working in our favor in that regard. So I talked about real estate, some of the buildings. I talked about people. Let me talk a little bit about connectivity, and this sort of touches on the infrastructure stuff, but it also touches on something that we like to call placemaking. Because if you don't get people out of these cool buildings and interacting with each other, then it doesn't really matter if you're in a city. I mean, you could just be in a office park, right? So we need to change that. So we Rock in the city brought in people from around the world that were experts at placemaking. This is much more of a science than you think. It's like, hey, there's these cool places, and how'd that happen? In some cases it's organic, but in many cases you can help jumpstart that. So we've created that kind of environment. This is Campus Martius Park in our downtown. It did well before. We created it as part of the Tricentennial celebration, but it wasn't really active. We brought people in and they said, hey, let's do this. Let's create a beach of all things. So we have a big beach where the kids are playing. We have tiki bars. Tiki bars are always really good for activity. Any tiki bars throughout the downtown, I think, is a key that I learned from these guys. We have music all the time, a lot of activities. And so, all of a sudden, everybody's coming out and interacting with each other. This is Cadillac Square. This was at the World Cup. Again, the energy that's what brings the kids down there and everybody down there and saying, hey, I want to be a part of that. We brought basketball in the heart of downtown. People said, hey, that's going to be an issue. We said, we think it's going to be a lot of fun. Let's bring everybody down here. And we did that the last couple of summers. Right next to that is a sand volleyball. This is really right in the very heart of our downtown, and it makes it much more pedestrian, much more active. Campus Martius, this is one of my favorite pictures. This was at the tree lighting just this last fall for our Christmas celebration at Campus Martius. You show people from around the world come into the city of Detroit expecting to see sort of economic nuclear winter, and you have a chance to show a picture like this, and you say, this is Detroit. I mean, there's both sides to it, but pay attention to the good things that are taking place as well. I showed you that picture of the riverfront. Well, the riverfront looks like this now. I'm the chair of the Riverfront Conservancy since we started a little over 10 years ago. We're going to be 5.5 miles of perpetual public access to the waterfront over the next couple of years. We're nearing completion. It's been fabulous. It's driving tremendous economic development. And it's creating a place where our entire community comes together, where you're doing Tai Chi or yoga or baby carriages or walking your dog, every demographic from our region, and it's been a fabulous place. Our West Riverfront looked like this just 3 years ago. Last summer, this is what it looked like when we had a Jimmy Buffett concert and Cam and so on. So again, I know you guys are spending a lot of time and energy on your riverfront, and it's something that you need to do because it's a place where people naturally around the world want to spend time on. We build connections, and here's the old abandoned rail to trail. We built that from the riverfront up into our neighborhood so that people can get down there and create that kind of energy. We saw what was taking place. When I was at General Motors, we built a little sort of a fountain out in back. It was just artistic, and kind of, this periodic spray and so on. And little did we know that it would become like the place for kids of all ages to hang out like all day long. And we really hadn't plumbed it in anticipation of it being the neighborhood swimming hole. So we had to go back and redo that. But what we did as a conservancy, we said, look, if there's that kind of demand and interest, let's create that on our own. So we did that. And so we created a water park that's open to everybody for free, throughout the season. And it's been just tremendously well received. So this riverfront is becoming a real connector for folks. We're working on one of the things that we're doing as a community, and this is back to the public-private thing, we undertook a new streetcar system in the heart of downtown Detroit. Roger Penske is chair, and Dan is vice chair, and I've been the CEO of it. We've been working on doing this. This is a great example of public-private partnership and taking the initiative to get some things done here. It's going to be 6.6 miles. It's not really 6.6 miles. It's 3.3 miles, but Gilbert says it goes both ways, so we should say it's 6.6. So, he's the marketing guy, so I just so don't try and pace it off to get to 6.6. 12 stops, $140 million for the capital, $5 million operating costs. We raised north of $100 million philanthropically to do this. So we took it upon ourselves to do this in anticipation then of being able to expand that. That was the genesis for the Regional Transit Authority getting approved. We're really excited about this. our community has tremendous development along this Woodward corridor, and so it's really going to be key to us to connect the things going on. Rock is involved in lots of other cool stuff, certainly philanthropically, 16 million in contributions. We support a lot of cool groups. Importantly, and this is something that, you know, I think is important for everybody to pay attention to. You know, we're north of 100,000 hours worth of volunteer time in the city of Detroit last year. We're going to be well north of that this year. I mean, it's great to write checks, but it's even more important to get your people engaged in it and make them feel part of the fabric of the community. I talked a lot about the downtown. I just want to touch for a second on the neighborhoods. We put a lot of energy, we Rock and a bunch of others, into doing a blight initiative to understand what was taking place in the neighborhoods of the city of Detroit. Most of the city of Detroit's records were in file cabinets. A year and a half ago, we took a technology that existed, sort of moved it into this utilization, and we went out over the course of 90 days and assessed the physical condition of all 381,000 parcels in the city. We determined which ones of them were too blighted to be recovered, which one of them could be, and so on. And we have been working hard on doing that. The mayor's taking great leadership. Just recently, with our congressional delegation, significant help by repurposing TARP money into the hardest hit funds, which in turn is going to be able to be used in Saginaw and Detroit and other places to take out blighted homes. I won't go off into that tangent, but it's a cancer that needs to be dealt with if we're going to be successful from a community standpoint. The other piece of that is there's some cool homes that can be fixed, so we're not all about demolition, so let's go in and fix the ones that we can. And Rock and others have been involved in a program called Rehab to Ready, some new mortgage programs downtown, working on a lot of things in that regard. So, past, present, future, a couple of quick snippets. Rocket Fiber. When we opened up Woodward Avenue to do M1, we said, you know, hey, what could we do to take us even a step further? And that is, we put fiber optics throughout the core of downtown. So we're going to, I don't know if there's Comcast people here, and they're wonderful people, but we're going to go 100 times faster than Comcast and for half the price. And it's going to be really important to connect people. And if you're going to be a high-tech community, you know, we're not going to do it with the kind of infrastructure that we have. So infrastructure takes different forms, right? We think this is a really important one. We've got some really cool buildings, like the Oak Tower on the right and so on, that Rock have just bought. We have not figured out how to make financial sense of them yet, but we're going to. And we're going to bring those back online. The Hudson's project, our iconic department store, is now sort of the missing tooth of downtown. It was demolished about 15 years ago. We're going to put a new project there. I don't know if it's going to look exactly like that thing on the right. We put that out kind of as a tease, but it's going to be a big civic space, significant new residential, and iconic architecture for the heart of downtown. And we're going to have a Nike store. Now, that's not big news to everybody, but it's big news to Detroit, right? Because we had a hard time keeping a Foot Locker going for a while. And we're going to now, with the things that are starting taking place downtown, we have some real interest now in major retailers that are coming into the city of Detroit. So we're excited about that. The Illiches are just an incredible project called the District, with the new arena, neighborhoods, hotels, activities around that, and new residential development. So this is Brush Park that we're undertaking with a number of partners. New ground-up, mid-density kind of city living, and we're excited about that. That's taking place on the riverfronts as well. We're probably at 500 units under construction on the riverfront right now. I would expect to be 5,000 units over the next period of time. Tremendous demand on the riverfront. So we have a saying in the city of Detroit that we have pulled out again more recently, which is nothing stops the city of Detroit. We've, I think, come together in a lot of ways. Back to my earlier point, from a private-public partnership with philanthropy and business and the government taking a lead on getting these things done. And we're proud about the progress that we're making in the city, and I think that's certainly the case with Saginaw as well. So nothing stops Saginaw. I'm very appreciative to be here. I enjoy spending the time with with Saginaw Future, learning from what you guys are doing, and have the opportunity to share what we're doing in the city of Detroit.